welcome to Bangladesh Today. I am Avneet Arora. Traders from Bangladesh recently met with Indian traders in Siliguri district in the eastern part of West Bengal state to discuss the issue of immigration with an aim to enhance bilateral and business relations between the two neighbouring countries. Cross-border trade at the Bangla Bandha Fulbari land port, opened by India and Bangladesh in January 2011, has enhanced bilateral trade and strengthened relations between both countries. The President of North Bengal Exporters Association of India, Roop Chand Prasad, said that the meeting was fruitful and that the Bangladeshi delegation had remarked that the immigration issue was pending from the Indian side. Illegal immigration has been a contentious issue between both countries.
মেন আমাদের আজকে আলোচনার যে বিষয়টা ছিল এই ইমিগ্রেশনটা নিয়ে কি ইমিগ্রেশনটা মানে বাংলাদেশের পার্টে তো কমপ্লিট হয়ে গেছে আমাদের এই পার্টে এখনো ইমিগ্রেশনটা কমপ্লিট হয় নাই সেটা নিয়ে আলোচনাটা ছিল সেই জন্য আমাদের আজকে শিলিগুড়ি পুলিশ কমিশনার আছে উনাকে ইনভাইট করেছিলাম আজকে আমাদের নর্থ বেঙ্গলের মিনিস্টার আছেন গৌতম উনাকে ইনভাইট করেছিলাম আর আমাদের আশা করি কি আমাদের দেশ পার্ট থেকে যেরকম আমাদের পুলিশ কমিশনারের সঙ্গে কথা হয়েছে উনি আশ্বাসন দিয়েছেন কি খুব শীঘ্রই আমাদের এটাকে চেষ্টা করে ইমিগ্রেশন পার্টটা খুলে দিব
As per the 2001 census, there were 3.09 million Bangladeshi people who came to India. However, no official numbers have been declared till date of illegal Bangladeshi immigrants in India. India and Bangladesh share a 3,886 kilometers long border, and breaching of fences by criminals is a continuous problem for security forces of both countries. There has been a considerable enhancement in trade ties between the two South Asian neighbours. In 2010-2011, two-way trade crossed the $5 billion mark as a result of a major increase in Bangladesh's exports to India and India's exports to Bangladesh. Bangladesh's exports to India in 2010-2011 were $512.5 million and India's exports to Bangladesh in the same period were $4,586.8 million. India is working towards strong trade ties with Bangladesh as a means to bring development to India's insurgency-ridden northeastern states. India hopes growth in the region would lead to livelihood for the youth, making it difficult for insurgent militant groups to brainwash and induct these unemployed young people. Member of Parliament from Panchgarh in Bangladesh, Morajul Haq Pradhan said that discussions were held on import and export of essential commodities between India and Bangladesh.
এটা মূলত ব্যবসা বাণিজ্য সংক্রান্ত এক্সপোর্ট ইম্পোর্ট আরো বেশি গুডস ইম্পোর্ট এক্সপোর্ট কিভাবে হবে ইমিগ্রেশন কিভাবে হবে ইমিগ্রেশন না হলে আমরা কি সমস্যায় পড়ছি বিষয়গুলো বিস্তারিত আলোচনা হয়েছে
India is the biggest export destination and trading partner of Bangladesh outside the Western world. Tariff concessions granted by India to Bangladesh under SAFTA, that is South Asian Free Trade Area, includes a zero-duty market access for all. The quantum of Indian investment and trade with Bangladesh is further expected to improve for mutual benefit. In other news making headlines in Bangladesh, the Supreme Court rejected convicted Jamaat-e-Islami leader Abdul Qadir Mullah's plea seeking the Supreme Court's intervention into the two judges to abstain from the proceedings of appeals against Mullah's war crimes trial verdict. Abdul Qadir Mullah, also known as the Butcher of Mirpur, was convicted on February 5th for beheading a poet, raping a minor and shooting 344 people during the Liberation War of 1971. Mullah escaped capital punishment and was handed a life sentence, upon which he emerged from the courtroom flashing a victory sign. Mullah's arrogance spurred online activists and bloggers to gather at an intersection in Dhaka on February 5th to launch the famous Shahbag protest movement. One of the protesters from Shahbag and also a member of the Ganajagram Manch People's Resurgence platform, Syed Zakir Ahmed, reiterated his demand of banning of the Jamaat-e-Islami, labelling it anti-national.
Being one activist of the Ganajagaran Manch in Prajanma Chattor, I firmly believe in such demand. I have to come to a question, answering to a question from a brief history. Like during the Liberation War, Jamaat-e-Islami, the organization, the political organization, the extremist political religious organization, they played a very controversial and negative role against the birth of this country. And they vandalized, they looted, they killed peoples, they helped the invading forces of against the freedom fighters. They raped the women and the girls, young girls of Bangladesh, and in that way they tried to resist the birth of this country. In a way, they did not believe in the birth of this country, and those are the indicators, shows how did they work not to let Bangladesh liberated. And the question came in front of the young generation, that the party, the extremist party, who never supported the birth of this country, how and should the nation or the citizens of this country allow that particular extremist political organization to be the policymaker of this country? And the people from the very beginning of 5th February 2013 started protesting against that extremist party's all activities, because in the recent past they killed policemen, they vandalized, they looted many things, as they did in the during the Liberation War in 1971. So the young generation, all the citizens of this country, but especially the young generation, they raised their voice against Jamaat-e-Islami, the extremist party, and the demand of banning of that party is very evident and very eminent at this moment.
Angered by its leaders being convicted, the Jamaat-e-Islami and its student wing, the Chhatra Shibir, launched various nationwide violent protests. Protesters clashed with police, burned public property and damaged Hindu temples across the country. Lashing out at the Jamaat-e-Islami, Syed Zakir Ahmed added that the extremist party was totally undemocratic and had violated basic human rights.
We want to trust the present government, whom we believe are a party of freedom spirit, the spirit of our liberation, and the spirit and actually holds the same spirit as what we do, the Ganajagaran Manch do. That, and we want to believe that this party and this government will fulfill our expectations.
Supporting Ahmed in his stand was social activist and executive director of Transparency International Bangladesh, Dr. Iftikharuzzman. He said that the Jamaat-e-Islami was a part of the conspiracy and that it was also responsible for the genocide that took place during 1971.
I think there are justifiable reasons for this demand being raised now, and this has both historical and contemporary relevance. Historically, if you see that what happened in 1971 in terms of war crime and crime against humanity, that were to a great extent as local collaborators of the then military junta in the then Pakistan, the party who had been a part of the conspiracy and also actual participation in the genocide that took place in Bangladesh in the war itself and also in the aftermath. And that has now been even in the court of law has been confirmed by identifying the party as one of the guilty parties in the war crime and crime against humanity. That's one. And the second thing is that the way especially I mentioned about the contemporary relevance, especially some of the recent violent activities that the party and its student wing have been indulging in, to some extent has been kind of syndromes of insurgent activities targeting against the state and the state capacity. For example, the targeting the infrastructure, the railroads, the police stations, power stations, and also violences of other nature. So I mean, the people who are raising this demand have justifiable grounds for this.
The War Crimes Tribunal set up in 2010 was mandated to indict the guilty, even though 10 of the 11 on trial belong to the Jamaat-e-Islami, an ally of the opposition BNP.
I think there are two things that need to be considered at this point of time. One is how to address the issue of, first of all, the whole issue of deciding for or against banning, it must be in the due judicial process, in the due process. In the court of law, I think that there has to be some process in the basis of which so that nobody can question this decision that it's arbitrary. That's one. And for that, I think the legal process has to be allowed. And the second thing is, more importantly for me, is to try to address the issue politically, because what may happen, as many people suspect, what may happen is that banning a militant organization or an Islamist organization like this, who have indulged into at least some actions which can be viewed as insurgent activities, can lead to counterproductive situations. They might go into actions in other names, similar actions in other names. They might re-emerge, as has happened in many other countries, and in case of here in Bangladesh, that re-emerge in other names and shapes. So it's not only simply a case of banning a party as such, but also addressing the issue more politically. That's where I earlier mentioned that it needs to be some really some heart-to-heart consultation between the two major political parties and come to a common understanding that this is something that is against the spirit of law, spirit of the identity, spirit of independence of Bangladesh, spirit of the constitution, and the values and standards that the people actually aspire for in this country. So I think on that from that perspective, there has to be a common ground between the main major political parties, and also at the same time some actions or initiatives on the part of the government as well as the other major political parties to communicate this message that there is no divide between the spirit of independence in Bangladesh and the issue of war crimes and crime against humanity vis-a-vis the Islamic or identity of the majority of the people of this country. Apparently some forces have been able to successfully create a divide between religion on the one hand and the spirit of independence on the other, or the religion on the one hand and the spirit of bringing the war crime or crime against humanity to justice. So this divide has to be addressed, and this can be addressed, in my understanding, in a political way and with a strategic approach to the whole issue.
The tribunal has so far sentenced prominent Jamaat members like Abul Kalam Azad, Dilawar Hussain Saidi to death and Abdul Qadir Mullah to life imprisonment. The Shahbag protest has been nothing short of a galvanizing revolution. It's drawn worldwide support from liberal quarters and ire from fundamentalists who've termed it as an atheistic movement. Whether these Shahbag protests will be able to maintain their fervent opposition to the Islamist forces remains to be seen. More on that in the coming episodes. Thank you for watching Bangladesh Today.